Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in. It really helps me out if you like, comment, subscribe, and if you would consider purchasing from one of my sponsors in the description. Thanks a bunch.
Today's episode is brought to you by Pet Assistance First Aid Kits. If you're like me, you love your pet. You take them with you if you can. You certainly care for them a ton at home. But just remember that no matter where you are your pet's first responder. Like it or not, you are your pet's first line of care and perhaps only line of care. They depend on you to make sure that they stay happy and healthy, and the people at Pet Assistance have made sure to create a product that will help you do just that. With the help of veterinarians, the Pet Assistance First Aid Kit is a 60-plus piece first aid kit that comes in this handy carrying case. It's a soft carrying case that is meant to be as light as possible. The entire thing fits easily in your car or in any kind of suitcase you're going to use during your travels. The kit contains many bandages and wraps of all sizes for your pet, and it also contains things such as cleaning solution, Q-tips, combs, lancets, and a dog whistle. Here's a list of all the things included with the kit, and hopefully you will find it useful as I have. Remember, Pet Assistance for the first line of defense for your pet.
Hey everyone. So I was going to make a test it, fix it, and run it video out of this Chicago and Alton Heavy Pacific that is made by Rivarossi, and this is the AHM version. But I realized a lot of people are kind of interested in this particular locomotive. This is one of the more desirable Pacifics from Rivarossi, and for good reason. I think it looks really great. It's a really deep looking paint job. First time I saw it, I'm like, wow, I'd like to get the whole consist, and we'll talk about that here in a minute. But here it is, and as far as I can tell, this was unrun. I don't think this was ever run on any track. I think a collector had it. I'm not sure why he cut the box in half, but either way, that's what we've got. So very nice looking. Here's the tender. It's the Alton, and the observation car is the Chicago, so they have both names in there. Look at that. It's really good looking paint job. This burgundy or whatever it is, I think really stands out. Looks like somebody changed the coupler though, if I'm not wrong, but if you can look, there's really no wear marks from the contacts here, from the wipers, so it's a pretty good sign. It's not too bad looking, right? It's got a pretty nice coal load. Again, very even paint job. The striping is really attractive. It's a very nice gold paint. Here you can see, and this is part of their Premier series, there is a little bit of a seam line you can see, but it's not too bad. Just a little bit of a flash line on top. I don't think that's so bad at all. It has some really nice details up front. Of course, it has those massive pizza cutter flanges. Couldn't possibly have a Rivarossi without those. But overall, I think it's a really wonderful looking locomotive. Now, it does have the round vertical motor, and I do have a video on how to DCC that, but of course we have to make sure this is running first. And frankly, I'm not entirely sure what I'm going to, whoops, a little bit more on there than I wanted to. I'm not entirely sure what I'm going to do with this. And there it is, the Premier production run. So it's just a little bit improved over just the normal run-of-the-mill Rivarossi that you see. So let's see, there's traction tires on it. Like, yeah, you can tell this really hasn't been run, really not at all. So that's pretty lovely. The problem is, even with traction tires, these things have about the same amount of pulling power as a 2-day-old cheese Danish. And I'll talk about that here in a little bit. Like I said, I'm not sure what I'm going to do with this. I have actually, in my life, owned one more of these, and I moved it on, and I've actually owned the Mikado as well. I don't know what it was, but there's just something really unappealing to me about this Mikado, so I moved it on. I've also actually, like I said, owned this Pacific as well, but it wasn't from the Premier production run. can clearly see the differences, and the tender is very different, very, very different. The front details are different, just different locomotive altogether. And because of that, I moved it on as well. It didn't look anything like this one. So yeah, the AHM one is very different, and this one I like quite a bit, actually quite a bit. And I like it's bulkier looking, it's chunkier looking, and because of that, I find it really appealing. And I'm not going to tell you how much I paid for it because you'll cry. So you don't really want to know. Just think of what you think would be a reasonable price for this, and it's much, much less. So, and the fact that it looks like it's effectively unused is great. So let me see if we can wake it up here out of its slumber. All right, so it's running a little bit begrudgingly, and I can't fault it for that. It's probably a little bit angry that it's been in this box for so long, no one to play with it. But let's go ahead and oil it and see if we can get it to run a little more consistently. Okay, I think it's pretty much there. I think if I either put it on rollers or if I go down to my layout and let it run a bit, I think it'll pretty much come back to life. So I think we're okay here now. Because I didn't like either the Mikado or the Pacific that I had originally, I went ahead and bought this. That's right, in all of its awful sounding bad pickupness, the light Pacific that Broadway Limited had. Now, ironically, in terms of its look, it's more similar to the Pacific that I got rid of. The tender is more similar. It's a light Pacific, whereas the Rivarossi / AHM I have is a heavy Pacific. And I will put these side by side here in a second so you can see them. But the question is can I run these together? Should I run them together? Should I double head? Is it going to look kind of weird with such a large locomotive? Yeah, it's probably going to have to go up front. And this smaller one behind, not entirely sure. This is part of why I'm making this video is I've actually got some options. So I'm not entirely sure what I'm going to do here. But yes, this is the one I bought when I got rid of the other two. I'm like, well, I want something to pull my consist, and this is what I purchased to do that with. Let's go ahead and compare the two. There are some notable differences between these, and the Rivarossi is on the bottom, and the Broadway Limited is up top, and of course, one is a light Pacific, and the other is a heavy Pacific, and it shows. And the long distance tender on the AHM / Rivarossi is notably larger. And if you remember, my other Rivarossi tender was much more similar to the BLI tender. So anyway, if I would have wanted to double head these, maybe keeping the old one would have been the better deal. If I put the Broadway Limited in front, the size difference becomes, I think, really, really noticeable. On top of that, I think the AHM / Rivarossi one looks a lot nicer from up front. Granted, it doesn't have the hoses hanging down, but I think overall it's pretty darn, yeah, it's actually more appealing in a lot of ways. The H&M even has some texturing up front, whereas the Broadway Limited really doesn't. If you look at the cylinder covers, it has the really nice pinstriping on the Rivarossi and even has the silver end caps, which the Broadway Limited doesn't. I think even back towards the cab here, the Rivarossi might have a little bit more to offer. Again, we have the textured running plates on it, but then again, there is some pinstriping on the Broadway Limited that we don't have up top here, so maybe that evens out a little bit. In an overhead view, their size difference becomes pretty obvious, right? The heavy Pacific is a fair bit longer. Certainly it's more chunk around the midsection. So yeah, there's no doubt it is the bigger locomotive of the two. I believe I have the entire consist for this, I'm pretty sure. And first we start with the ones I don't use. It's these dual level sleeper cars, and I just don't use them because they don't look right in the consist. As far as the Alton Limited itself, we have the Armstrong RPO up front. The next one is the baggage car. It doesn't have a name, it's just baggage car. The next one after that is the Combine St. Louis. After that, we have the coach Webster Groves. After that, we have a sleeper, which is Jefferson. Coming up next is another sleeper, the Wilson. After that, we have the dining car, which is Bloomington. The penultimate car is another sleeper. It is a Lincoln. And then tailing everything is the observation car, Chicago. And I'm pretty sure that's all of them. I have interiors for all of them. And dare I say, this makes for a very handsome train. Might be one of the largest first world problems I've had in a long time. My conundrum is this. I actually like this better, but the problem is running full interiors in these cars. There is no possible way that this Rivarossi locomotive is going to pull the entire consist. If I didn't have interiors, maybe there's a chance, but not with interiors. These cars become way too heavy and have too much rolling resistance when you do that. Gosh, it's hard not to like the way this thing looks though. Thing I guess I'm a little bit scared of is I doublehead it. Not sure if it's going to look very good with the light Pacific. Guess I can always try, but I'm going to have to go ahead and convert this first if that's something I'm going to want to do. I wonder, strangely, it would have been almost better just to keep the light Pacific from Rivarossi because they look so much more similar, but then again, you could tell, it just wasn't as fun as this one. Goodness, this is a good looking locomotive. Okay, and this is where y'all can help me out. Do you think that running that heavy Pacific up front is going to look good? Is it going to look weird or bastardized? Do you think I can double head these? Even if I guess it is going to look kind of bad, will it help you in any way for me to convert this heavy Pacific into DCC with sound? That make a difference? And I guess the other option is to either get another consist, one that's shorter, or at least one that doesn't have interiors, and run that, or just move it on. I really hate to move it on, though. It's a really beautiful locomotive. I think it looks better than this BLI here. So, yeah, why don't you help me by letting me know what you think? I'm really curious. I don't hang out with too many other model railroad guys in person, so you're what I've got. So I'm happy to pose the question to the greater world out there. All right. Well, I've hopefully, if people are interested in this consist and these locomotive, I hope I've kind of illuminated the state of these Rivarossis. And I don't know if a lot of people know that there are actually 3 separate locomotives that you could use to pull this consist if you wanted to. I think most people know about the heavy one, but the Mikado and the light Pacific exist as well. And I think this one looks the best. It's nice and chunky and beefy, and it just looks like something that should be pulling this. But like I said, it has the pulling power of a donut rolling down a 3% incline. So it's just never going to pull these cars. Even this Broadway Limited has problems pulling all of my cars. If I put even one of the duplex sleepers in there, it starts to struggle. It starts to slip around some of my curves. So I need your help. Let me know. I'm curious to hear what you're thinking. Well, I'm going to have to read what you're thinking. Please put that down in the comments. If you have any other comments, put them down there too. I'd appreciate it if you'd like, and I promise it doesn't cost you anything to do that. It costs you about the same amount to actually subscribe. If you like this kind of content, I will try to put things up like this fairly often. So until the next time, happy model railroading. Take care. Stay safe out there. Talk to you later. See you soon.